Hi everyone. I'm aware that the title might seem a little clickbaity, but I am a failure. In this video, I want to talk about something that happened recently that has made me reflect on the experience of failing, what we perceive, like how we see failure and the identity of being a failure. Don't get me wrong, this isn't because I failed for the first time in my life and I am deeply shocked. I failed at lots of things, but this specific occasion has left me reflecting in a different way, I think, to how I have before. And I feel that this is a really important thing to talk about on this channel because failure is something that authors, creatives, we experience it a lot. It's an inevitable part of what we do because we produce something and maybe other people don't really like it. So in the context of books, I might write something and it doesn't really sell very well, or the reviews aren't very good, or maybe the book didn't turn out how I hoped, or maybe I put in that book for an award or myself for an award and I didn't win, or maybe I've tried to sort of make a move in my career and it hasn't worked out that way. And I've experienced lots of those different things and more. And I think that within the creative world, because of the nature of us putting something we've made into the world and sort of wishing it luck as it goes off, that there is an inevitable sense of failure. I mean, perhaps even you're traditionally published and that book has been rejected for publication, or as I say, there are so many different ways that in the creative industries we can experience failure. And so reflecting on that experience and what it means and kind of examining it, I think is really helpful. We all as humans experience failure. Before I get into what I want to say, I suppose I should tell you what happened. This isn't some big horrendous thing or massive violin playing or anything, but I'll try to explain why I think it's made me reflect in the way that it has. So this weekend just gone, if you follow me on social media, you might have seen I attempted my second dan in karate again. So I failed this in June, and in karate you have three elements. You have basic techniques, you have kumite, which is fighting, and you have kata, which is sequences of moves that you learn. And when I went in June, I passed basics and I passed kumite sparring, but I failed kata. And so I was told, come back at Christmas and have another go at kata. So I trained really hard for it and I addressed the issues that I knew that I had, but I also know that due to the undiagnosed neurospiciness of my brain, so let's not put a label on it because we don't know what that label is just now, but there is one. I definitely struggle to remember sequences of moves, to focus in a pressurized environment, and to understand verbal explanations, or to translate a physical somebody else doing something into my own body. All of those things are quite difficult, and for that reason learning a set sequence of moves and seeing the nuances and understanding that and remembering it and performing it under pressure is all quite difficult for me. And so I did joke as we were leading up to the grading that, well, we all know that I could mess that up, and people were like, no, you've only got to go along and do 2 katas. Well, guess who messed it up? I'm not really sad or upset about it. I'm frustrated more than anything else. This isn't the first time that I've had a similar experience. When I went for my first dan, I failed it outright the first time and then passed the second. I think maybe why I feel differently to this one to how I did with that one, and more reflective perhaps. I mean, partially it's age, but also I think it's because I failed it twice. And I failed it. It felt embarrassing because I was given chances. I didn't understand the chances. Anyone who was at that grading who's watching this, by the way, I know that there could be some people. I am fine and it's all fine. Bear with and I'll get to my point. It is one of those things, and it left me feeling frustrated with myself and angry, not in a big way, just a little bit cross. slightly upset. I mean, all of these were quite minor emotions, but I since then have been reflecting on it, and one aspect of it is sort of a zen noticing of the emotions, if that makes sense. I feel like I've sort of sat back and gone, you feel frustrated at yourself and you're doing some negative self-talk. And I noticed that I was quite anxious. I was replaying events and I was like, you're feeling anxious. And I felt this sort of noticing, and I think that's partially what's led me to be more reflective. As I've said, I failed at lots of things, and it's not just because I failed twice. I mean, who knows? I've got another attempt, but guys, if you are watching this, there's every chance I could fail it again. Don't know why when I'm failing, I'm like, cheers. It's because I want to drink this coffee before it goes cold. Mind you, a lot of my time is spent drinking cold coffee, so that's fine. Brain needs to focus, otherwise I will ramble, and I don't want to do that. I want to make a point concisely. So, as I was saying, another example would be my driving test. I failed that a lot. You want the story, you can let me know in the comments. That's a story for another day. But again, that for some reason did not lead me to think so much about how that failure affected my identity, if that makes sense. So I did fail the grading. Ergo, I am a failure in this particular context. And I spoke to somebody about that and they were like, oh, you shouldn't use the word failure. And I think maybe that's partially where this reflection has come from, because I am a failure. I did fail. And why is it that we are so negative about that? You see, we live in this society that celebrates success so much. We have social media where sometimes it might be on purpose, people showing their like incredible lives, but sometimes it's just because we show the highlights. If you look on my social media, you'll see me, book launches and traveling here and doing this, that, and the other. And maybe you have an assumption about my life that isn't quite true. A lot of my time is spent being a mum and just doing like local mum things. And sometimes my books can be really stressful, and sometimes my mental health is not so great because of that, or for other reasons, of course, as well. Like, it's not all hooray, like this is exciting and amazing and I'm so proud and it's wonderful. Sometimes it's not like that, but I don't show those things. So for anybody who is on social media, we're kind of showing all of the success, and I think our society rewards that a lot as well. There's always this push for bigger and better, earn more money, be a better person, have a nicer home and have all these possessions and more, and look at this person, they're incredible, they did this, and like rewarding how amazing people are. And then I feel like when we talk about negative things, we're like, oh, don't talk about that. And if we take the context of a karate grading, part of why I respect the concept, let's say, or the level of second dan is because people fail it. If it was a walk in the park, if everybody just went, oh, I think I want to go for my second dan, and they just passed it, I would not have the same level of respect that I do, knowing how hard it is to do, because I've done it. Not entirely twice, because the second wasn't a full retake. But because I see people fail it, and I talk to people who failed it. You might think that's odd. I respect something because people fail it, but it's true. If people can sort of go through this level, and everybody does, it doesn't hold the same respect as like, this is a hard thing and not everyone gets through. And then when someone does, you're like, wow, that's amazing. And when eventually I do get through that, I'm going to be proud of myself, because it was a hard thing that not everybody succeeds at. But I think that we don't necessarily recognise that failure is almost an inevitable part of success, because not everybody can succeed in every single scenario. I've talked on here about my feelings about the people who go, hey, just follow these 10 easy steps and you'll be a millionaire from your best-selling book, because it's just not true. And lots of you guys watching this will know that, you published a book and some people bought it, but you're not a millionaire. Like, it's not realistic, and it's not realistic to say everyone succeeds. If everyone could just do certain steps and succeed, well, everyone would do it. And if everyone had the right kind of personality for that scenario, could put themselves forward in that way, or had a life that was able to do that. When I started my business, my youngest was 1. And so how could I possibly put the hours in for the sort of the things that you might need to do to make your book like an instant hit? It's just, yeah, like we don't all have the personality, the life, the skills, the experience, the time, the money to be able to achieve success, the network even. Not all of us have it, and it's not always possible. And for that reason, we will all experience failure. We will all try to achieve something in our lifetime and not achieve it. And it's not even necessarily something like career related or like an official grading, like an official thing where there's like a pass or fail. I feel like with books, you almost can have that, because you can go, well, what were your sales like? Or, you know, what are your reviews like? We can have like a benchmark, and there's not always a benchmark. Sometimes you might just feel like a failure because you mishandled a situation. Maybe you didn't parent very well in a certain circumstance, or you made a poor choice, or something just went horribly wrong and you know it was your fault, or you were unkind, or you weren't thinking while you were driving and you sort of, you know, clipped someone's wing mirror, or, you know, there's plenty of times where you're like, oh, and you get that negative self-talk that I was saying earlier that I noticed of like, oh, I am so stupid. And we kind of go, oh, no, you're not. And I'm not saying that I am, but I'm saying that that it's okay to acknowledge that sometimes we are frustrated with ourselves, and sometimes we kind of berate ourselves. I understand the idea of having positive self-talk, but I also think we can notice the negative self-talk and kind of accept that, what am I trying to say here? That when we fail, which is inevitable, in not always, in certain circumstances, we all experience failure. We all experience that emotion of like, oh God, you know, frustration, sadness, anger, jealousy, all of those things. We all have felt that kind of failing emotion. And it's about not letting it, allowing it to define you. I will come back to that, but without letting it define you. I'm doing well here with the rambling, guys. I have a point. I'm getting there. So, for instance, accepting that I did fail at something, acknowledging that I did, acknowledging that that is part of my story and part of who I am, and then reflecting on how to change that is an important process. And in the creative world, that's going to be a really important process. I released this book. It was not well received. What do I do about that? Or I released this book, there weren't that many sales. What do I do about that? And kind of acknowledging the thing that went wrong and reflecting on how to improve it. Going back to the example of karate, there are lots of people who fail gradings or other similar kind of failing. I really messed up in the competition in September in a few of the categories. Those were also failures. When you experience those failures and you feel that kind of frustration and humiliation, it's very easy to just go, oh, this is all ridiculous. This is too hard. I can't do this. I don't want to feel this negative about myself, and just throw it all away and walk away and say, I'm not doing karate anymore. And then all those things that you appreciated about karate, like that's fine if you don't like it, but all the positive things, if you do sort of still feel that that was the thing you enjoyed, you can throw away out of sort of not wanting to walk back into the dojo, as I will today, feeling a bit embarrassed and tail between my legs and go, yeah, I failed, and be back amongst friends and back in training and doing something that I love, with that just being part of my life story that at some point I will sort of move through. And in the same way, we can release a book, and what we could do, and I've come across authors who've gone, well, I published my first book and it really didn't sell very much, and I'm so frustrated because it's really hard to sell books, and it was such a long process, and what did I get out of it, and forget it. And this was a person who 6 months or a year earlier was talking about how passionate they were about this career or about this book and what they wanted to do. And because of this failure, they've stopped. And they're throwing it all away, and they're not going to do book 2, or they're not, whatever. They're not going to continue selling their book, and they walk away. And that's where I feel that kind of owning the failure and not trying to sort of look at everyone else who's succeeded, who've been lucky, had the opportunities, whatever it might be, I graded with people who passed, and I could look at them and go, oh, why can't I be like them? And that's not to say that thought didn't go through my head, but to kind of go, oh, I'm rubbish. The fact I failed does not mean I am rubbish. And whether we've passed, failed, whatever, and whatever success we have, I am still me with my set of skills that sit in a certain sphere, and that hasn't been changed by an assessment of that, or an assessment, a judgment, or a whatever of who I am and what I am. I still am those things, whether I pass through a certain door opening or not, if that makes sense. And we can have a tendency as authors or creatives to kind of go, I put myself out there, and now I have to sort of acknowledge that it didn't go so well, and I have to reflect on what I need to do to change. And I'm sort of going out into the world with that embarrassed feeling that I will feel that when I go to the dojo later, and kind of go, yeah, like everyone else is talking about how great everything's going, and it's not for me. And I will tell you one thing, for lots of them it won't be, by the way. But that's hard. It is hard to do. But if we begin to own failure, to be able to say, yeah, I did really badly at that, I failed at that, that's powerful. And it counteracts this social media, shiny, societal, more, better. And to go, actually, not always. Sometimes I'm happy in my lane. Sometimes I might try to level up and I don't manage it. I'll go back to my lane. That's cool. And I still love what I do. If you don't want to do it, that's fine. Stop. But I still love it. I'm still going to keep going. That's okay. Yeah, I haven't reached that success. That's fine. That's why I talk openly on here about, I made a video when I broke even, and I talked about sort of why financially this industry is difficult. And I don't present myself, I hope, as someone who's got it all sorted out, because I do not. I am as real as I possibly can be and as honest as I possibly can be, because it's important to do that and to not just always celebrate success, but also to celebrate failure. Because when you fail, so people talk about how people who pass their driving test first time, they're rubbish. You want the people who failed loads. By that measure, oh, brilliant driver. But there is a certain amount of truth in that. And I certainly wouldn't want, in the context of karate, to say that the people who failed first time are no good. They are phenomenal. And I don't believe that. However, the experience of failure teaches you a certain level of self-reflection, I don't know what word I want here, worthiness maybe. I know who I am, and it's okay if that's not enough, or I didn't do so well. I know who I am. If we look at the context again of parenting, I do something in the moment, I lose my temper with my kid, but I know who I am, and I know that that scenario did not go so well, and I can reflect on what I should have done, what I could do, how I can make it better, and we move forward, and I know who I am. So it doesn't shake that. And sometimes the experience of failure allows you to analyse, okay, so but who am I? Right, that's who I am, that's what I stand for, that's me. And we're still okay in this situation, we're fine, we failed, that's fine. How do I move forward? Do I try again? Do I take a different direction? Do I need to upskill? What do I need to do here to make this better? And we have this reflection and this learning. And not only that, we have the resilience. That if we failed and we've stood firm, we're resilient. Authors out there who have loads of books are going to have had some that didn't go so well. And they're going to have had bad reviews and strange people walking up to them at events and saying things about their books. Everyone will have had stuff that's made them feel bad. They might just not talk very publicly about it. They're going to talk about, hey, I sold X amount of this, and this book has won this, and because we share the highlights. But in order to have stuck around, we're going to have experienced failure. And if you sit down and talk to anybody who has done anything for a period of time, you will find it has generally, most of the time, not been just a series of opportunities and successes, because that is not real life. And when we are accepting a failure and sort of accept that it happens, accept is not nice. I'm not suggesting that let's all fail at some stuff, but it happens, right? We all experience it. We all work through it. We can all have that Zen attitude of noticing the emotions, allowing them to flow past, deciding how to move forward, and not being... I don't think failure is something to be ashamed of. Do I feel a little bit of shame that I had a slightly embarrassing fail at the grading? Again, hi guys who were there. If you're still watching. If you are, actually comment, then you win something. I don't know. This coffee is cold now. If we can accept that, even, like, I know that when I go along tonight, I'm going to feel a little bit embarrassed. And part of that embarrassment is because I know that the others will feel a bit bad for me. And they'll be like, oh, you did so well. And oh, I'm so sorry. And I find that attention embarrassing. And again, that has like similarities with what could happen in the book world of like, oh, but your book was lovely, and oh, you know, maybe it was a bit niche, or maybe this doesn't work because of that, and oh, I'm so sorry, or you know, and you feel a bit embarrassed and you don't really want to talk about the what happened or the experience. You just sort of want to keep your head down. I think if we own failure a little bit more, and if we sort of openly and honestly, like, instead of everyone just talking about when their book is a bestseller, what if we say when it's not? What about if we say this book sold like nothing? But I like it. I think that's okay to do that. And I think that's real to do that. And I think even if we don't do it, we need to accept that people have that experience, and I don't know, I just really think it's important to own failure. And I will own the fact that I have failed my second Dan twice. It's fine. That's a thing that happened. It's true. It's a part of who I am. I could fail a third time. Who knows? I'll try not to, guys, if you're watching this. My point overall, my overarching point at the end of all of this is that when you come across failure in any walk of life, it doesn't just have to be writing related. Anytime you fail, and you will, because we all do, because we're human, remember that life is not all success, even for the people where it seems that it is. And some people do face more failure than others, and that's okay. There's all sorts of reasons for that. For me, sometimes it's because of my silly brain. That's why I failed my driving test so many times, is because I have dyspraxic tendencies, and it took me longer than other people to get there, but I got there. And the same with karate, and that's fine. I accept that. And it means that for me, life is not quite so successful in that area of my life, and that's fine. It's fine. And if we accept that and we own it and we are more real about it, we help other people who are navigating that, but also when we are navigating it ourselves, just to remember that it happens, we can grow from it, and we don't need to feel so ashamed that we stop doing what we love. So it's okay to be a failure, but please quit on a good day. I did quit karate once for quite a long time, but I did it on a good day. And so I never felt it was the wrong decision. And when I came back to karate, that felt like the right decision as well. When you do it for the right reasons at the right time, you're not left with that sort of frustrating or what could have been kind of emotion. Facing a setback and sort of dramatically going, that's it. I think that's a shame. And I think it's all right to fail. It really is. If you needed to hear this right now, it's okay. It's fine. And I'm sat here, I failed at something. I failed at loads of stuff to do with writing. Like, I am not sat here running some amazing multi-whatever business, but I'm trying really hard, and I feel like my books matter and I'm proud of them. If that's success, then great. If it's not, then fine. Then I'm a failure. I don't care. I love what I do, and I can learn from the setbacks and the failures that I have. I appreciate that was a very roundabout way of saying what I wanted to say, but I hope that meant that it kind of made sense, and I hope that it helps. Failure is unpleasant, and the karate one was a minor thing. I've had much bigger failures, but this one just got me thinking. It got me thinking about the fact that failure really is fine, and yeah. Good luck when you fail. Thanks for watching. I hope that's helpful. I hope, if you don't get on with being a writer, that's cool. Stop because you wanna. Don't stop because someone else's assessment of you made you feel bad. That's okay. We can all reflect and learn and do better next time. That's, after all, what failure is all about. Thanks for watching. Please leave a comment if you also identify as a failure, and if you've got any amusing failure stories to tell. If you ask, I will tell my learning to drive stories. I'm often used as an example. I have a friend who's a driving instructor. I know he talks about me. Anyway, please subscribe if you haven't already, if you would like to subscribe to a failure. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon. Take care.